The number 15 South Carolina Gamecocks traveled to Death Valley on Saturday and knocked off number 12 Clemson. And man, it was one heck of a football game. A very big defensive matchup, man. I was on the edge of my seat. I was watching this with family. We have South Carolina fans that are in the family. We have Clemson fans that are in the family. And we're just sitting there like, this game is going to be close. I originally thought South Carolina would dominate, probably win by a touchdown or a little bit more. I did not think it was going to be this close. It was a heck of a fight by Clemson. Drops Clemson to 9-3 overall. Actually lost 2 games at home this year. Moves South Carolina to 9-3. And they were 4-1 on the road this year. And we'll get into the game in just a second, kind of talking about like what's next for both of these teams. As it's not the end for Clemson. They've got something to play for. When you take a look now at South Carolina, there's going to be a lot of waiting. So everything is out of their control. They're not going to play for an SEC championship. As you look at the final SEC standings right now, Texas is 7-1. Georgia is 6-2. They'll be playing for the SEC championship. Tennessee is 6-2. Alabama is 5-3. South Carolina is 5-3. The standings were so jumbled. Texas A&M is 5-3. LSU 5-3. Ole Miss 5-3. Missouri 5-3. So now as you sit back and wait, and I know we saw the coaches poll, we saw the AP poll come out today. South Carolina kind of flirting around 12-13, and there's a lot of what-if situations, but upsets continued to happen this weekend. I don't know if it's enough, and I don't know what the committee is going to think. If we're talking about the college football playoff and you're talking about the 12 best teams and the teams that are playing the best football right now, South Carolina has to be in that conversation. Now, are they going to get the nod? I don't know. They could be right on the bubble as one of the first 1 or 2 teams out. They're going to need some additional help. And when you have conference championship weekend ahead of you, there's not really anything that you can do. And then as you go into conference championship weekend, are these, I mean, I know the winners out of the Power 4 are going to make it. The highest ranked group of 5 is going to make it. But as you look at the Power 4, are these play-in games, or are both of the teams in the conference championship guaranteed a spot? Or can a team in a conference championship game blow out a team so bad that's there that they knock them out? And is that fair? I have no idea. This is the first year that we're going to see this unfold in front of us. But if we had to make a case for why South Carolina should be considered, it actually has a lot to do with Clemson. And the Clemson Tigers backed their way. I mean, I'll say backed their way into the ACC championship. It's kind of just the nature of their schedule. They finished 7-1 in the ACC, 1 loss to Louisville. And they're in the ACC championship against SMU. They backed in considering they lost this week. So they're at 9-3 going to face SMU. If you're a Clemson fan, I have some good news for you. Clemson is 7-0 at Bank of America Stadium in the ACC championship game. And guess what, folks? They're playing at Bank of America Stadium this weekend. This is going to be like a home game for Clemson. Clemson has a lot to play for. And just based off of what I saw against South Carolina, I think Clemson may have enough to overtake SMU. SMU's a good football team. I just don't know how good. I kind of feel like it's the case of Indiana in the Big Ten going up against Ohio State. Nowhere near the same, because you know Ohio State flopped this weekend, which was good news for South Carolina fans. But I think if Clemson, here's my case. If Clemson wins the ACC, they're going to be 10-3. They're going to be in. You have South Carolina, who went to their place, not at a neutral site, went to their place and beat them 17-14. I would personally say that's enough. But I don't know how the committee is going to view Bama, how they're going to view Ole Miss, speaking of the loss, and or South Carolina's loss to LSU. And I feel like South Carolina is going to have to jump Bama to get in. I don't know if there's enough for them to be able to do that. I also have to look at this a little bit differently. And I bookmarked because it was important, and I will give credit here in just a second as I pull this up. I bookmarked a tweet that I saw highlighting some of the stats in this post Shane Beamer win over the Clemson Tigers. So it is the first 9-win regular season for the Gamecocks since 2013. They have beat Clemson 2 of the last 3 times, both on the road at Clemson. Oh, I don't know why this says they won. They did not win 2 straight. And then Shane Beamer surpasses Steve Spurrier for the most wins by any Gamecock head coach in their first 4 seasons. I think all that bundled up together has to be a stronger talking point. You look at where they were projected to finish this year, you're talking 5 or 6 wins. 6 if you were being like on the positive end, if you were being nice. For them to have the success that they did this year says a lot about Beamer, and I think it's the foundation. I saw someone tweeting like, would you rather be Indiana and have one good season out of every 10 or 15 years, 50 years, or a Texas A&M or an LSU or insert whoever and win 8, 9, 10 games every year? And I think a lot of people would side. Football is fun when you know the team that you're pulling for is going to be competitive. They're going to win. And I think now, as if you're a fan of South Carolina, you have to think about consistency. And I think that's what Shane Beamer is trying to establish. And looking at the future and into next year for the program, that has to be a very big talking point. This is not I was going to call it like a consolation prize or us like giving up, because I still think there is a chance for them to make the playoff. But I think if they don't get in, you should celebrate this year, this team. A lot of times we over-index things, and it's like it's championship or bust in every single thing. But sometimes you just got to take in what you have and be thankful for the win over Clemson, for the big-time wins that you haven't had. And for winning 9 games and getting to play in a big bowl game. Again, I'm not conceding and saying this is it, but I do think we have to acknowledge the success that they've had. And again, you beat your rival. And so that's all I got. Speaking of the game itself, man, it was a slugfest on defense. LaNorris Sellers really couldn't get anything going in the passing game. He had 164 yards passing, 1 interception. Klubnik had 280 yards passing, 1 interception. Where LaNorris Sellers excelled was with his legs. What he was able to do, the plays he made with his feet, coming down towards the end of the game, being able to win. He was the leading rusher, 16 carries, 166 yards, 2 touchdowns. Rocket Sanders, 18 carries, 60 yards, no touchdowns. I mean, that was the difference. Nick Harbor had a pretty good day, 3 for 51, but the passing attack just wasn't there. You needed your defense to play solid. They did. And the one mistake that Klubnik makes at the end of the game is they have a chance to really make a chip shot field goal. They decide to get cute, throw an interception, and that seals the deal. That was a huge win for the South Carolina program. So if you're a Clemson fan, though, you now have the ACC championship. You've been there, you've done that. You just competed with South Carolina. You probably feel like you should have won or could have won. Now you got a chance. Your chance into the playoff. You win and you're in. So there's still a lot to be to play for. In the case of South Carolina, they just wait, so not for them. But in the case of Clemson, they'll look to compete and move on to the ACC championship. So anyways, folks, that's going to do it for today's recap. Drop a comment. Let me know what y'all thought about the game. That's all I got.